welcome back to the Business Simple podcast. It's your host, James here. I have a very special guest with me today, Ryan. Ryan owns Voyage. We've done some work in conjunction with them, and I've also just been lucky enough to meet him through some mutual friends over the last few years. He has a really cool business. He has some ways that they do things that are a little bit different to the way that we do things, and I'm really interested to kind of dive into that, his story, how you've kind of grown your business and what you've sort of turned it into and how it all works. So thank you. I know you had a bit of a messy evening last night. I appreciate you still making the time.
No stress.
Hey, so just, I suppose, where we tend to start, which is at the start with most of our guests, can you tell me a little bit about, you guys have some incredibly impressive clients, and I had a look through your website before this, and big government agencies, things like that. How does someone go about starting a business in primarily web development and app development? Those are the two. Yeah. And how do you wind up working with the government on projects and things like that? What does that whole process look like?
I don't know if we did it traditional or like quite the right way, but I mean, for us, it was just right place, right time, and it's probably the same for a lot of people, right? So, I will step it back. So I studied in Wellington, went and worked for an agency in Wellington, spent a couple of years there, and then went out and kind of while I was there, I built up a bit of a network and good kind of connections and that sort of stuff. Went out my own and moved to Christchurch, but at the same time I started subcontracting back to sort of all these agencies in Wellington. So, I had that sort of name out there, did some good work with them, and have kept those kind of relationships going, over the past sort of 10 years of business and that. And then just through that is just these opportunities have sort of come up where, hey, look, can you help us out on these projects or whatever? And it was sort of like they've come from almost a subcontracting position, or we've either brought in our whole team to work on the project, or we've kind of worked alongside. They might have done sort of design work and things like that, and we did the build. Which was in the case of the sort of like COVID-19 website, where we'd worked with Clemenges for years, and then it's just got this call up like, hey, look, we just need somebody to build this thing, right? So they've done all the brand, the marketing, all the art direction. We just get pulled in for that piece. So it's just kind of been a who and a little bit of a right time, right place. And then that was sort of to get the foot in the door, I guess. And then now it's sort of we go down the tender process and do all the fun stuff that ensues. But
from what I understand, it appears a little bit like once you've kind of done a project or two projects and that kind of level of work, it can be a lot easier to get future ones afterwards. Is that right?
I think, you definitely end up with like a little bit of a reputation perhaps, or, like a name on the door, so to speak. There's definitely, so like now we are an accredited or an approved government supplier. And so, that's sort of that was, we were pretty sort of loose with it to start with, and then we kind of were like, oh, look, we need to probably go down the process here. And so we went down that sort of, avenue, and now we're all approved to actually do work for government and that kind of stuff. And then once you're on the sort of list, you're good to go.
Yeah, cool. And sorry, I kind of jumped a little bit forward because I just find the government work thing so interesting, and we've had a lot of conversations outside of this around how that whole process works, because it's just we actually have our client technically that would probably fall into that. They're actually from Wellington, funnily enough. But so Voyage, you study in Wellington, you go work for agencies, you then step out on your own, but you're kind of more of a contractor. You're now obviously far bigger than just a contractor. Is that just like natural 10 years of business, slow gradual growth? What's the process of growing to? How many staff have you got?
At the moment, I think we're sitting around about 15, 16.
Yeah.
At our biggest, we were 25 or 26.
Yeah. So it's a big team.
Yeah.
And that's growing a business, myself and understanding what that's like. It's not super easy.
Nah.
Yeah.
Comes with its challenges, right?
and so is that just work comes in, hire another person? Like what's your journey been like growing to this point?
Yeah, it's been, I don't know, I guess a little bit untraditional maybe, or I don't know, we just kind of rolled the punches, right? So To start with, it was just myself doing the sort of subcontracting and freelancing side of things, and then I was also teaching at the time. I taught a web development course here at UB, and then through that, one of the students, Andrew, he was like sort of real standout, and I was like, hey man, I've got a bit of work, like, do you want to come and help me out? So, here's sort of the first hire, and we worked from the kitchen table at the flat for a wee bit there, and then we moved into sort of like co-working space, and that in itself, I think, just helps sort of start to open up the network, and not being a Christchurch native, like, I didn't know anybody here, kind of thing. So just kind of started putting my feelers out, picked up a few little sort of projects here, as well as, we're still, it would be like myself and Andrew would go and be doing projects for, sort of augmenting these other teams and things like that.
Yeah.
And we just grew from there, really, sort of 3-4 of us, and we're 4 of us maybe for 2-3 years, like just, all right, this is easy, this works,
nice team size there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we sort of like started bringing on more. We're like, we need project manager, and so now we're at 5, and then there's a bit more work. Now we need like a couple more devs. All of a sudden, you just start scaling, right? And then, when we were at our biggest point, we had 2 teams. So we had a team in Wellington. There's 5 staff up there. We had an office up there, and then the rest of the team was down here. That had a bunch of challenges in itself, which was some like real learning curves. And then it's just kind of like over time, we just have just naturally gone with sort of the peaks and troughs of the economy and that, right? So like as things have gone, we're kind of, because our projects are so big, we're in a position where we can kind of see where our staffing resource needs to be. So like we had a couple of people that wanted to go off overseas and travel and that, and we're like, cool, well, that's fine. We know like this project's going to end in like November or whatever it might be. It's not going to have a huge impact like if we lose those 2 people, because economically, like we know what the sales pipeline is looking like off the back of that as well. So it's just been real natural kind of roll with the punches and see where we get to.
Makes it sound really simple. I'm sure it's been a little bit harder than that at the time. And so you mentioned when you came down here, you were doing a few like smaller jobs. One thing that has blown my mind is I think that overall web development is it's probably more deregulated than running Facebook ads, and not many things are more deregulated than what we do. But you have everything from people farming work out to the Philippines and India and doing really cheap websites, to people building Wix and Squarespace template sites, through to really heavy custom development work like what you guys do. How have you navigated something as complicated as that?
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I think at the moment, I'm kind of just going through this of, how do we actually tell our story better, right? I think there's a lot more players now coming into the market and saying, yeah, cool, I'm a web designer. And it's like, are you? Do a $500 package and like you get a full website. I'm like, okay, well, that's going to cost like $100,000 for us, kind of thing. And it's like, so what's the difference here when you're talking about, web design, web development, right? And we definitely lean more in on that custom development. And I think for us, it's kind of more around the sort of digital transformation, right? So we're looking at how can we actually use technology, use the web, cloud sort of, applications and that to really improve business and business process. So when we sort of play in the marketing space, we don't kind of play in the ad or, the like traditional marketing where you guys are, but we're definitely more in that like heavy integration piece. You've got like personalization and all those kind of things that cost money, and that's where and it needs like understanding and experience to actually be able to implement, and that's where we get stuck in. And it suits people the same as other things don't. And the same way as that, the customer that wants you guys doesn't want the $500 to $5,000 website. That's the thing that I find probably the
the most challenging to explain, and I understand why you would have so much difficulty with it. The website work that we do is nowhere near the size of the stuff that you do, right? But it's also not the 500 to $5,000 package stuff. But typically when you're in there, you're looking at like it's probably a graphic designer or something that is using Squarespace or something where they can drag and drop, and that's sort of what they're building out. And so even for me to try to explain to someone why they should spend $15,000 and not $2,500 is hard.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh, but this looks the same. And I'm like, well, I don't think it does. But also, even if it does, that's not the point.
Yeah,
that's,
exactly.
you know, and it's easier, I think. Like, I can't imagine trying to do it in comparison. I suppose you guys have the ability to showcase some of the projects you've worked on and that sort of thing that might help to explain a little bit more. But I can't imagine trying to bridge that gap between the kind of what you guys do. And I suppose you just filter out, you know, inquiries that aren't good really early.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one as well, right? Like, I mean, the inquiries that we do get are already at that kind of top of, you know, level or they're coming to, you know, we're doing RFP responses and that kind of thing. So,
yeah,
you know, you kind of know what budgets are and that kind of stuff. And we just go, yep, this is good. This is a fit for us. And that's where we play.
Nice.
But yeah, I think there's a real education piece there. And it is around that whole, like, value prop, right? Like, what else are you bringing to the table? And you know, is that experience? And I don't know. It's a website, like, and I've been kind of looking at it, right, is just the medium for delivery of something, right? And so we actually start going like, cool, stop thinking about the website as like just this piece, but it's actually like the whole digital experience around it. You know, what else is happening? Like, what's all your back office? Like, how does that, you know, how can we improve that as well? You know, what's the other experience that a user is getting? Like, maybe not just through the web, but how they, you know, finding you and you know, understanding all the customer journeys and you know, all the different types of users and how do you optimize for each one and that kind of thing. So it gets detailed, and you know, we go down those rabbit holes and we do all that exploration, and I think the clients always seem to get a better result when you fully understand their business, right? And how do you optimize for it?
We have the exact same thing with marketing. We have the exact same thing, and in terms of the impact that it causes and how, like, I get it completely, because you know, it's you can't treat it like a product. It's not just like okay, sweet, if we check these 10 things off the checklist, then we will achieve the outcome. Yep. It's not how it works. You're dealing with people. And so those people aren't, you know, although there is a rhythm to the way that they operate, they're not restricted by that rhythm, and they make decisions and they change their mind, and those rhythms change and things adapt in the way they use, you know. So trying to keep ahead of the curve, because usually if you're in the curve, you're sort of too late. Yep. Like, by the time there's mass adoption to something, it no longer stands out, it no longer has the impact you want. So you need to constantly be trying to push the envelope. And
And we bring that as well from like a technology perspective, right? Like, how do we, you know, AI, right, buzzword at the moment, but like, how do we leverage some of that stuff, and both in terms of the product and, you know, implementation into client solutions, but also how do we implement it in our practices and you know, use it to optimize the value that we can provide to the client, and you know, deliver, you know, I'm not going to say we're going to deliver a project cheaper now, but you know, cut just all the time, the boilerplate time that, you know, does take a lot of time and money out, you know, and use that extra time and money now on the value add, right? And really go the extra mile now.
And that's definitely the way to view the AI thing. Yeah. Is it's like, it doesn't mean that you charge less, it means you do more. That's the answer. And I think people that view it that way will really start to hack things. It doesn't mean you take your 20-person business and scale it back to 2 people. And so, you know, right. That's not the answer, because the people like that will get chewed up by the people who keep their staff and use them better, but also use AI at the same time. It's an interesting space. It is a buzzword at the moment. I think that people view it wrong, for sure, but it seems to come up in every one of these interviews I'm doing now. So there's more and more people that are looking at it. I think it's just about trying to understand what's a party trick, and what's a fun gimmick that it can do, and what's a practical use of it that will actually help you to gain efficiency over time. What's a task that your guys spend 100 hours on a week that you can remove?
Massively.
And it's not a billable 100 hours.
Yeah.
Focus on that stuff. Or how can you use it to move through a process that would be challenging faster?
Yeah.
Like a silly dispute over something. Or, I was doing some brand work for a client yesterday and I was like, I just can't, I've got something in my head. I just can't get it out. Like it's just stuck there.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, right. And so I just start typing into this thing. I'm like, this is where I'm at. This is what I've thought of. This is what I've already come up with. This is what the client likes. This is what I like. This is how it all works. I need you to solve this for me. Was pretty much the end of and it was just like, shump. And I'm like, there it is.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think, being able to leverage it correctly, let it do some of the heavy lifting for you, but it couldn't have got there without the initial direction and that sort of thing being correct too.
Yeah. I mean, like for us, similar example to that, right? Like, well, when it comes to sort of our sales and RFP process and all that kind of stuff, we're like, could be a 2-week kind of process, right? For 2 people to go and do, and it's like, that's not a valuable use of time. Yeah. So, we've done some stuff where train the AI on all our previous responses and all of our, brand material around it. Mm-hmm. We now plug in, like, here's the brief, here's all the, questions and answers, respond to it, and it will, generate our proposals for us and done, dusted.
Yeah.
And then, like on a development side, we're using it now for, like, as developers, basically writing a good chunk of our code, probably 50% of our code is done with AI.
Yeah, nice.
And it's like the low level stuff, right? So it's things, I don't know, like how to write a button and that kind of things that you just will use over and over and over, but takes time to do manually. And because we do everything manually, when we're trying to charge it onto the client, again, right, now I can just get it done and have the time to think about how do I actually want to, like, really make this polished, what's that, real slick user experience, or what are the complex problems I'm trying to solve at, like, a database level, or the architectural output of it. So
sure, cool, nice. That's really interesting. And so you mentioned you got to sort of that 3 to 4 person size. You put a project manager and things start really going. What point in growing your business were you at when you started to really scale things up?
I think we're sort of like 4 or 5 years on. It was probably post-COVID, like during COVID, to be honest. We had, pretty good time. Probably the flip of a lot of people.
Yeah.
We were lucky in the fact that, we had a couple of sort of government contracts in place, and, they were still spending the money and had some good projects that we delivered. And then, I think people were adopting to being online.
Yeah.
So again, it's kind of been one of those, like, right place, right time, and it's really worked well for us. So off the back of that was probably when we started really scaling up and built out the team. And there's a couple of sort of other things, with having partnered with other companies, like some of them were losing staff, so we managed to take them on, and then build out our team that way. Take on some of their clients at the same time because they just couldn't service them now that they'd lost staff, and so that it all just sort of worked in our advantage. And
nice.
Yeah,
that was the thing that surprised me most was like I heard a whole bunch of stuff about when COVID happened, and it feels like this was a million years ago, but it really wasn't that long ago. Companies just going in and, like, laying all their team off, like as soon as the lockdown was announced, because obviously media spend got pulled, right? How people weren't able to see that it was going to snap back in a big way. I mean, for you guys, it obviously jumped up straight away, but for us, I was like, sure, we've just gone from, at the time, we might have had 40 clients or something, and I think we went to like 2 overnight. And so I'm like, okay, so I think I had 6 staff and 2 clients in the first lockdown. And I'm like, that's obviously not a very good ratio. That's not really, maybe that works for you because the size of your projects. For us, doesn't work. I kind of want a minimum of like 5 clients to staff, but it's probably more like 10 at peak efficiency. And I think as we get more delivery, people will get closer to there. But like, I was just like, I can't risk missing out on a rush out the other side of this, because I feel like everyone's going to come back and just be swinging and be trying to. So we had, Williams Blair was here this morning. You know him really well. And Matt, like, they kept marketing through, and there was one other company, and that was really cool. Both of them benefited massively from it too, because no one else was running ads. So that was really cool. But then as soon as we got out the other side, it was just like, whoomp. And we were ready to go.
There we go.
And we were actually probably rested, and like sort of, I was kind of pretty clear-headed. I'd because there was so many people and such a little amount of work to be done. I'd had the guys working on systems and processes and doing all these things, and I'd kind of just taken 6 weeks to play PS5 and just chill out. And I hadn't done that in the 3 years or whatever I'd had the business before it. So I was sort of like, right, I'm fizzing to get into this thing. And then the next lockdown, we had no clients paused. I think it was like one or something. But by that time, we'd probably put another 10 or 15 clients on board between those two gaps. And so we were like, this is a completely different environment now. And it just ran. The property market went nuts. We were like leveraging off that pretty heavily.
I think there's that thing, right? Like, I don't know, in service businesses, especially in the digital industry, right? Like, it's just peaks and troughs. So you've got to expect that, the high times are going to be good. And then like, the low times are going to be like low, but it's also going to come out the other side of that. And you've kind of got to be always ready, I think. It's very easy to go in and be like, right, let's axe it back. Like, we need to, be at, 80% or whatever, right? But it's actually just keep running at 100 and, you're going to see that advantage come out.
I agree. It becomes annoying because you're like, at some point in time, this will hit peak efficiency and I'll be able to like really make the most of profitability and stuff. But you're kind of always baited by that next step. So you like hire those 2 people, even though you're like, do I want to hire them right now? Or do I want to just, and you're like, nah, I want the next thing. I want the, and at some point in time you cash in and it's mint. But you just can't really I haven't been able to do it yet where I'm like, right, okay, next year's about, margins and we're just going to do. And then I'm like, but if I hired those 2 people, we could probably get to this point and I could do this. And I'm like, oh, you're right. And it's like, we're not going backwards, so we'll just keep pushing. And
it's far more fun, right?
I know. Foot on the gas pedal, no break. No break. Right, so this is the thing I've been dying to ask you about, and I'm sure you know where this question's going. So you guys have a 4-day work week.
Yeah, man. Well, so we do a 9-day fortnight.
Right.
So it's every second week is 4 days.
Yeah.
We have tried a number of things over the years. So I guess kind of where this all kind of came from was, working for somebody else, and I was like, I've seen how I don't want to run a business, right? And I want to have some flexibility, and that's not to say that we didn't have that flexibility right there, but I just wanted more, right? Like, I think one of the books I read at the time was like, Let My People Go Surfing by Yvon Chouinard, the Patagonia founder. I got really inspired by that, like this whole like mentality of, if the surf's good, just go out and surf, and like work will always be there.
Yeah.
So we've tried a few things over the years. We did, we sort of called them mental health days, and it was just you could take it whenever you want kind of thing. And found that like people just didn't do it, and even if they were burnt out and kind of actually were like seriously needing to do it, but even just as a general like, hey, just go chill for a day, people wouldn't. So kind of started mandating it and being like, cool, it's going to be like every second Friday. And we tried a couple other alternatives, but I think we've still got to be able to service clients. We've still got to kind of be on call. So it just worked. Like, I think one every fortnight is good.
Yeah, sure. That was what I was dying to get into, is how I find that I'm trying really hard to roll out a few more things. Like, we've got this fitness thing we're doing with Recreate Performance. And like, that's been mint. But like you said, without like mandating things, staff uptake fluctuates, really, and there's always a reason to stay at the office. And my attitude is that what people are trying to do with the work thing is they're trying to put an infinite list of tasks into a finite period of time. So you're destined to fail every time, because it's like the task list grows. As you check tasks off, it creates
one off
more
the bottom,
tasks.
one goes on the top.
It's how it works. And so I'm like, and I'm lucky because with the baby and stuff, which you understand all about, I don't have unlimited time just to go to the gym when I feel like it anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to fucking recreate. I don't care. Like, I'll work at 11 p.m. to catch up on my things because
You
that
work it
recreate
around your
time.
day
So
now.
yeah. I'm like, I know if I don't get enough workouts, then I start to go a little loopy. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I know I need to do this, and because of that, I will make the time to make it work.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit different if you don't have the kids thing, you don't have whatever it is. But it's the thing that I'm struggling with the most is to create, because you guys have been rated, is it one of the best places to work in New Zealand, or top 94% of something?
So had 2 awards. So we're ranked. God, I can't remember the stats, but great places to work. So it's an international recognition, and then we're a great place to work across Australia and New Zealand, and then the 2024, gotta remember the year, best places to work within New Zealand. So we're a finalist for that. And,
sure.
Diversity category actually.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Like, I would like to build an environment like that, but it's just so hard because how much of it is your responsibility? How much is it trying to, the team, and you want them to bring ideas to the table, but it's really hard to get. And then you wind up, I've got 20 people that all like different shit. So for some of them, the idea of relaxing is going to the pub and playing some pool and having a beer. For other people, it's a workout. For other people, it's actually communicating with no one and just sitting at home by themselves, which I get. And so, there's so many different ways that it might. And so trying to create something that appeals to everyone, I think, is the real challenge there.
It's really hard. And there's definitely no silver bullet. I don't think. I guess what we've tried to do is I've probably tried to lead sort of as many initiatives as I can. And that's mainly from my own experience and kind of things that I want the company to grow into, sort of culture-wise there. And then it's kind of putting a little bit, giving the team that space to like come up with ideas. And I guess the way I've always approached it is like everything's an experiment, and this is kind of across like my thinking in life is like everything's an experiment, right? You try it, see if it works, adjust it, oh no, it was an absolute flop, right, cool, throw that out, and you're like, let's come up with a new idea. And that's kind of like, we've had this evolution of what this looks like for us over this, the last 5 sort of 6 years that we've been doing it, until we sort of landed on the right one. But it is super hard. We've got a really diverse team in terms of what they like and don't like, and you're never gonna nail it and get everybody on board, but I don't know, everybody's pretty on board with an extra day off. 3-day weekend, right?
It's hard to argue. So with and you touched on initially when we started talking about this, you mentioned I've worked at places before, and I know marketing especially, it appears to be like the more web development strategy sort of area, they can treat their staff a little bit like they owe them a pound of flesh for the opportunity to work there. Like, it kind of ears on that sort of accounting firms, legal firms with that,
grind it out.
And like I watched one of my friends' wives. This was a year where me and him probably weren't as productive as we could have been, and we were at Kong, say, a few nights a week, and we would sort of hang out there until she finished work. And she would finish at midnight, and then she'd be back there at 8 the next morning. And that wasn't like one day, that was every day. And I've had extremely long periods of my life where I've had a work life like that, but it's been for myself. Like, it's, like it's been for it's Digital Simple,
you, right?
which I own. And so it's like, it's pretty easy to justify, doing stuff at night when it's for you. Whereas I found it really hard, and I've always tried to balance this with my staff, where I'm like, if you want to be an overachiever and if you want to do things that are beyond what my expectations are, I will support that and I will reward you for it. But I do not expect it, and you will not be punished for not doing it. And it's such a hard balancing act in the middle.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the line, like, I think you've got to take almost, right? Like, I'm the same, I've done all-nighters and, I work till like 1 or 2 in the morning, like just the other week, right? And that's because like that's what you got to do to sometimes just knuckle down and get shit done. And we probably will ask the team once a year that like, hey, look, we're got some crazy deadlines, like we've got to deliver on this shit. Can you go the extra mile. Like, let's just do a few extra hours, you know. We'll get in pizzas, we're getting beers, and like make it into a bit of a thing that like it's cool to do, right? But we don't ask it all the time, and we try and encourage like just that healthy work-life balance, right? Which I think everybody just has got to do, and it's a hard one though, for sure.
I don't think by any stretch I've cracked it. I don't know if the health and wellness thing is the answer. At least maybe the frequency or something of how I've got it set up. Maybe the 3 times a week is too much. Maybe we need to do like once or twice or something. I'll have a chat to it. We've just done it. We've just completed our 2nd month. I think today's the last one, and see, like, I'm rooting for it. I think it'll probably just be like 2 or 3 of us there, but I'm real excited because I'm like, I haven't managed to get to many other sessions, and Archie's teething and shit. So it's just like, it's my 45 minutes where I'm like, I walked in on Wednesday and just looked at Josh, and I was just like, fuck, I need this. Like, I hadn't even started working. I was like, I'm so excited to be here. It's only 45, and it's just,
I think there's that realization, right? Like, when you become a parent, that just that personal time, or like those things that take you away from business and the home life, right? For me recently, it's been getting back into the gym as well. Like, I've just, man, I actually get really fizzed on this, or, you know, and the other flip of that is probably also like just going out and catch up with people, having some beers. Like, that's also just a nice like unwind, relax, right? You got to do it though. I think otherwise you just go crazy.
And it can all be like, once again, there's like an infinite amount of things to do that you're trying to fit into a finite period of time too. Realizing you can't do all of them, no matter how efficient you try to be, I think is the key. The toughest thing for me with the parent thing, and I don't know what it's been like for you, but I'm interested to maybe hear, is I trained, and this is like, I don't exaggerate this at all. I don't know why I did it or like where it happened. I think it was just getting that like fizz off the training. But I would have trained twice a day, 3 to 4 days a week probably, with the rest of the days training once, but like pretty hard. Maybe I'd have Sundays off depending on what the week had been like. But if I'm having Sunday off, it's because I've done 10 sessions over 6 days leading into it. I don't know why. I don't know why I wound up there. Like, I was training like I was in a fight camp or something. Like, you know, like really applying myself. And sure, I was fit, and but it was well past the point of diminishing returns. Like, at the moment, I might do, if I get 5 sessions in a week, that's a lot. You know, I'll do 3 this week, maybe 4. But I don't feel like I get that much less out of it in comparison with like the time commitment and stuff. It's like, you still feel pretty good. And like, if you just eat reasonably well and train 4 times a week, you could be pretty healthy. I
think cut the beers back as well, right? A little bit, and, you know, all in moderation.
To be fair, if you want to stop drinking, just have a kid, because you value your sleep so deeply. Well, that's been the thing for me, is like, I know when I drink, I don't sleep. And so if I haven't slept for 2 weeks and I go to an event, I'm just like, I'm not. You couldn't convince me.
I'm not in the mood for this.
I don't have a rubber arm. You know, typically someone's like, come on, have a beer. I'm like, yeah, all right, go on. But I'm like, no. There's no chance. You're not convincing me. I can't deal. This is not about anyone else. This is about me. I can't handle the repercussions. So you've got 2 kids? How old?
1 and 3.
Yeah, nice. Busy.
Yeah. I think the second one's been an interesting one in terms of, I guess, my like priorities. You know, like, I think Harrison, my boy, is the first one. I think I was still on this like, I can keep working and just like work as like 50, I was going to say like 60%, you know, like 60-40, but you know, like I had it really high on my priority list. But I think having number 2, like, I've found myself many a times now just being like, man, I just want to go home and see the kids and give them a cuddle kind of thing, you know, like my priorities at the end of the day have just massively changed versus like, I'm still 100% into the work, right? And like want to deliver, but I think the other things that, you know, I'll come out for a beer after work or whatever, it's like, nah, like I want to go and hang out with the kids.
It is fun. You know? Like, I didn't see myself being as much like that as I am, truthfully. I was like, I'll be good in terms of like a role model and stuff like that, but I don't know how emotionally available I'll be because I don't really have them, and that's really valuable. It's really valuable, especially during like early have, like, when the baby's really young, like you're going through teething and things like that, where it's extremely draining on both of the parents, but more so on, you know, the female than the guy by a landslide, but it's still pretty fucking taxing on you too. Not being super emotional and reactive to what's going on, I think really helps you be a little bit more stable for them, which is good. Sure. But it's been interesting how much it sort of softened me up. I was talking to a buddy about it the other day who's pretty hard case, and he's like, nah, I'm going to have one, and blah, blah, and I was like, it'll change you. Yeah. It'll change you. And he was like, no, it won't. I was like, look, if there's anyone I know that it won't, maybe you're it, but it will. It will. You'll feel differently about things. And for me, it was like, work was always number one, and then training was probably number two behind that, and then anything else kind of filtered in there. And I think when you're growing, like especially in the first 5 years of growing a company, that's actually quite a healthy way to be. I think that, you know, there's a reason why the business grows big, and it's not because you don't put much effort in. Like that's not, you know, that's it, right? But there has to be a turning point, and that's where I think, and this has helped me, is you start focusing more on like efficiency and effectiveness than you do on actually your input into the company. So it's like, how can I do something that gives a huge amount of leverage? How can I teach someone how to do something so I never have to do it again? How can I enable this person to make this call so it's off my plate?
Exactly.
And that actually probably makes you a better business owner than I'm going to do like a My Thoughts episode after this on why your get shit done mentality might be hurting you. Like that's something that's in my head, and I've got some notes that I've written down about it. And I got to this point with a get shit done mentality. And I started a senior leadership team, and they all learned my get shit done mentality. So they're all get shit done people too. Yeah. But you need some people who are enabling other people and leveraging things, or else everyone just winds up scrapping all the time. And it's not very productive.
Yeah, I think like, you realize, right, with kids, how much time you actually have in a day. And where you have to put it, you know, your energy. Yeah. And especially when you've been up till 2 or 3 in the morning because the kid's just not going to go to sleep or whatever, right? And you're fucking just cooked in the morning. Yeah. It's like, I just need you to deal with this today, right? And so, if you haven't put those things in place to be like, you know what to do, like you don't need me to tell you, then, you're a bit cooked. So, it's best to try and, I think, get that shit off your plate. Teach the team and give them the responsibility or empower them to actually make decisions on their own, and you know, encourage that. It's kind of been my thought on that, right? It's like just let them do it, and almost like ask for forgiveness, right? Like
they will make mistakes.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's like, if you don't, you know, like the reason why you and I are kind of like where we are, right, is because we've made mistakes on our journeys and we've learned from them. So if you don't give them the chance to make a mistake themselves and learn, like, what's the point?
I really like this, and I think this is a way to combine the leverage plus also limit your liability for mistakes a little bit. I'll give an example actually, and I'll be really transparent about it. But so it's 10-80-10. Is the way that I think of it, right? So it's the percentage of responsibility. So as the person who runs the company, you can't avoid the first 10 or the last 10% of the responsibility. It's impossible because if it goes wrong, it comes back to you. And the person who needs to, create the idea and the concept is kind of you at the start, right? 100%. So you do something like, for example, I said to my senior leadership team, I would like for you to create a new seating plan for the office, and I want to adjust the desk this way, and I want you to maximize efficiency, make sure people are like the closest to each other they need to be, blah blah blah, and then I just want you to roll it out. So what I did was 10-90, not 10-80-10. And then by the time I saw the seating plan, it was like about to happen. A seating plan sounds so much like fucking primary school, but you get what I mean. Like I want you to lay the office out intelligently is probably a better way to describe it. By the time I saw the layout, I knew it was wrong. But I was like, I'm just going to have to let this one ride. And I knew it was wrong because I was like, that sends the wrong message, and these people aren't really going to work that well, and this isn't going to really work here, and this is going to go wrong. And I'm like, here's all these things that I can here's all these problems I know I'm going to face now. But because I didn't hold that last 10%, I wasn't able to impact it. And so then it was really easy, as I was able to then go, okay, I'll let it ride for 2 months. I'll sit down with them and I'll go, do we think we made any errors when we did this? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, cool, what are those errors? Here's the ones I've spotted. We work through it. And then I'm like, right, okay, I want you to go do the same exercise again. This time I want you to give me 3 options. So there's 2 ways I like to do this. It's either 10-80-10, which is I create the idea, you do the delivery. I check it off at the end and sign it off. And so that's one where I'm giving really specific instructions. So it might be like, I want you to clear my inbox every day. I want you to organize things like this. This is how I want it to work. I want you to do the delivery piece, and then I want you to just come and tell me to check it at the end. Yeah. Or there's when you need them to actually do some of the creative piece, you do this 1-3-1 model where you go, here's a clearly defined problem. I want you to create 3 solutions and give me 1 recommendation out of those 3 solutions and come back to me. So I'm like, this is what I want you to do. I want you to create 3 different layouts that might work. I want you to come back to me with your favorite, and then we're going to work on it together. And in this case, it still needed some slight tweaks, but it was considerably better than what we had before. Yeah. So you still don't have to do the heavy lifting of it, but you can have some impact. Yeah. At the end of the day, you get tied up with the hurt.
Yeah.
You know, you have to fix the problems, you have to do those things. So sometimes sometimes you want to let it ride and you want to let them fumble a little bit, and other times you're like, I might just try to limit my liability here.
Yeah. I think it's real easy, right, to you see that and you go, fuck, I'm just going to steamroll this and put the kibosh on, right? And then it's like, nope. Like,
never the answer. It's never the answer.
I'm just going to annoy everybody, and it's always James's way.
Yeah.
You
don't want to do it all.
No.
You don't want to do it all. It doesn't actually suit you either.
I want to just do that 10%. Like, that's all I want to do. You know? Like,
and ideally, if you ran a company where that was all you did all the time, it would be massive, right? Like you could run 100 people that way. So it's just about finding that balance, I think.
Yeah.
So talk me through then, 2 kids, 15, 16 people. What's your business structure like? How does it operate? Are you still making a lot of the calls? Do you have like a senior leadership style team? How does that all work?
Yeah, so I moved, we had an engineering manager in place for a couple of years, and start of this year moved him into general manager role. And that was kind of timely with daughter coming along. So it's taken a wee bit off my plate, which has been nice. I think it's probably put me in that position where I can do that 10-80-10, right? Or to be honest, just not care about a lot of things, and it just gets done now, right? I don't have to worry about it. So it's given me the time and space to focus on the things that I'm good at and work on. There's definitely stuff that I can still get rid of and probably should, but it's always a learning curve, right?
Do you have admin, for yourself personally?
Not for me personally, no. So we have a team of, we call them producers, so they're account management, project management, kind of just, administration stuff. So they do all this bits and pieces, and everything's pretty open book. So I've got client relationships, but I don't deal with clients on a daily basis. That's all done through them. And so for me, it's mainly just... pretty direct contact with people, and it's pretty light touch. So I don't see the point in adding any overhead, to be honest.
Sure,
I know, there's probably arguments for it, but I just haven't. I love having the personal touch with people, and I think it's served me well so far. So why change it, right?
It's something that, because I've just hired a PA, and I think it's just in different businesses, it becomes the administration side of what I do, the level of it's not light touch, it's high touch, and it's the business runs better when I have it, and I know it for sure. And I donated my PA back to the cause because she was really good, and she went into our ops team, and she's made a really positive impact there, which is great. But it left me with that isolated, and that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done it. Which is fine, because then you go hire another one, and you have a better idea of what you want, and it always works out positively. But I'm always just interested to hear, because I know a lot of people who've grown monstrous companies without things like that, and then I have people come in here and they're like, if I didn't have them, my head would explode. And so it's really interesting just to hear the different opinions on all of that.
I think there's definitely times that I think, oh man, it'd be really good, and I'd love that, but then I try to work out, to that sort of time audit and that, right? Look at what my calendar is like, or where I spend my time, and I don't see, there's probably not quite enough value for me to make it work. If there's client meetings and things that come up, the project managers are dealing with the client, they'll just book it in my calendar anyway, right? So it's this sort of there's kind of doing this bit there, and there's a bit of admin stuff that gets done in terms of they handle all the accounting side of things, so it all just happens. I just approve and off we go. So
right. And so they write invoices and stuff like that. Wow.
So I've got a real light touch on that side of things. And then we just do we just have like operations meeting to do every Monday and a planning meeting on a Thursday. So, just sitting there, they run it. I just get the updates of where we're at and how we're tracking and what does next week or what next month look like. And then, I don't know, I get to put my little say on it. And, that's what I think. But
nice. Yeah. And so I'm real curious, what does a day then in your life actually look like? Like, what do you do? What are your responsibilities still? How does that work?
Yeah, so it changes, right? Like, some days I'll just get to have a lot of fun and just do a bunch of sort of experimenting and, I'm not on the tools per se for client projects, but I will hack away on projects and, design, develop, go deep in sort of AI and that kind of stuff. And really just so I can get an understanding of what can be done, right? In terms of when we go and have conversations with clients or, potential clients, I've got strategy in place. So probably a lot more of my stuff's all around strategy, both for business and for clients. So, bunch of client meetings and, trying to help them improve their business and then, cool. Yeah, just having fun, really.
Yeah, nice. I love it. You make it sound simple. I'm sure that there's been a lot of hard work and things like that that's gone into.
There's definitely a lot more that does happen, but,
Yeah. Dress down is good. Yeah. I'm like, and I did a thing on this yesterday, but I'm currently so obsessed with product.
I'm loving it too.
I go through seasons and sometimes I'm like, I don't want to know about it. I'm like, just because I'm like you, I cannot be involved in delivery if I don't want to be. I do have a team that at their core are capable enough to deliver on the projects, and they might need a little bit of strategic and input, or they might need some things like that, or just my marketing brain from a psychology perspective is probably a little bit in the teams, but they have the systems and processes and the skills to deliver stuff. I just sometimes need to jump in and be like, would you click an ad with that word in it? Or would that call to action appeal to you? And they're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, but that's all that it really needs. But I'm in the complete opposite where I'm 20 hours a week in product at the moment. And I'm so into it. And just figuring out, how can we strip this back? How can we do this differently? We've just, believe it or not, we would do, I'd hate to know what the actual number is, but we would probably produce, it would have to be north of 1,000 ads a week, for sure. For sure. It'd have to be north. It would have to be. And we would design by hand every single creative in Adobe at the moment, right? And so you think about the time, it's 2 40-hour-a-week people going flat stick just designing stuff, and that doesn't even include their landing pages and the email designs, the volume on it,
and all that kind of stuff.
And design's hard. You can go through creative block and just have a shit day, and you need designers to have the ability to do that, right? So I've just figured out that we could really actually get the ads people to do all the images. They would just need 20 good templates and have no ability to deviate from brand guidelines. So if you just had 20 templates that met brand guidelines, the only fonts that were there were their brand fonts, the only colors that were there were their brand colors, the only images that were there were the images we're allowed to use for their brand. The ads people could actually just jump in and just do the images and they'd just have them straight away. And I'm like, it took me 6 years to figure that out, but really it's what I was doing in year one, where I just used to duplicate in Canva the past design and change some stuff around and then publish it. It's really just that, but 6 years later, way cooler. And I don't know what the actual software we'll wind up using is. We're weighing up Canva, we're looking at Adobe Express. There's a few different ones that it might be.
Chat, mate. We'll build you something.
Something custom. But we're trying to figure out how that works. But I'm like, holy shit. And that's just from me jumping back in and being more involved in it product-wise for a month. And you go that might save us 40 hours a week of work. It could be more. And then the beauty is like we spoke about with AI, I'm not doing that so that I can have less designers. I'm doing that so that my designers can do more impactful shit, which means now all of our landing pages are 15% better. Or all of the emails we write are 20% better, or whatever
you've got
it is.
more capacity, right? Take on more work, right? Do 2,000 ads.
5. If there's no barrier, the actual core of what it takes to create an ad campaign is probably about 30 minutes of hard work. But if you want to execute it really well and have a whole bunch of really intelligent people do all of their bits, it's probably more like 3 hours, because you have design briefs and conversations and images get created and they go to the ads person, they get revised and sent back, and that happens 2 or 3 times, and you have all these things, and sure, the outcome's beautiful and amazing, and that's why a lot of our clients work with us, because of the quality of what happens there. But then you slam a whole bunch of work through that system and the quality begins to drop off because it's so hard to deliver and everything gets strained. Sometimes trimming things out is the only way to actually get the quality. And you'll run the risk of the ads person spelling something wrong or whatever. But that can happen anyway if everyone's under pressure. And they'll have more time to deliver it. And there's just things like that. And the way that we like review our campaigns. I had a meeting with Meta yesterday and they were talking about a whole bunch of stuff that I hadn't really thought about. And I'm like, I didn't have time to have these meetings before. And I wasn't doing this because I was so caught up in this other stuff. Yeah. That's really interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Something good about getting that time just to like think and like really go deep on stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, the biggest otherwise.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I sort of noticed with it is that I listened to this Larry Page podcast on Modern Wisdom, and they basically asked him, this is funny, you're getting a bit of a prequel because this is a question I'm going to ask you soon, but they basically asked him if he could go back and he was going to do one thing differently, what it would be that he would do. And it always trips everyone up, except for Blair before, who he would have done road cones, not temporary fencing for their first business. I was like, that's so funny. But everyone else he loves road cones. But everyone else pauses and they think. And Larry Page's answer was that he would have had 95% technicians in Google, and he would have not worried about any of the other stuff anywhere near as much. And they obviously did marketing and sales and all these other things. And he's like, if your product is so good that you have like a queue of people trying to use you, like you can't even fulfill the amount of people that want to work with you, then you don't need to worry about anything else. And so then it becomes, is the key, are you playing like the business hacking sales growth game, or are you playing the product game? Both of them are actually, the measurements are the same, because if your product's good, you sell lots because people refer you. And you grow fast because people don't leave. And all those things sort of start to happen. Whereas the business sales game, you probably have to do a few more transactions. You have a little bit more churn. You have to take on a little bit more financial risk. You can get to the same place. And I've seen companies grow through both models. But I think just ours has definitely been business hack. Like, we're the best at selling. That's been how we've grown. We have the strongest brand, the best at selling, the most known, all of that sort of stuff. And product obsessed, sure, but not as much as we probably should have been. So I'm just really interested. My whole 2025 is product. That's it. It's just have the best system. That's it. Have one that's so good that you can come in and be like, this is going to be successful. There's no shadow of a doubt. This is the outcome we'll achieve.
I mean, what you can do is, you can just keep testing that and keep testing and improving, right? Which, the other way is you don't have anything to benchmark on, right? So at least this, you can just keep iterating and
And the beauty of where we operate is like it's all measured. Everything's measured. Like, what's your conversion rate on the page? How long do people spend on it? How much content do they do? How much this? Well, if we do this, then it increases here and it gets better here. Oh, we just did that and it decreased. Let's remove that. Go back to the other thing. Like, it's so logical. I love it too. I love it. For us, like, what's your click-through rate? What's your this? What's your that? It's all really easy to translate. So then, our golden kind of question from each of these podcasts is that if you were starting again from the start, so we go all the way back to Ryan, fresh out of studying in university, what is the thing you would do different if you were going to start again from scratch?
I'm glad you gave me a little bit of heads up on this one before. I think the path I took was good until I probably got to the point of sort of building a team around it, right? So like going solo, I think I made the right moves and partnering with people and just having those connections. I think when I got to the point of actually sort of bringing on or like creating a company, having a support network, I think, and something I still probably don't have now, but like building out the non-staff team, right? Like advisors and getting the accountants and all the kind of like people that you need around you to help actually lift you up to build a business, you know? Like, I think, one thing I've found probably this year is like, I still don't really have that in play, like I don't really have business coach, I don't have mentors or like an advisory board or anything like that. I've just always done experiments and sort of seen what works. Whereas, I think having some sounding board there to chat through ideas or whatever would be really good. And that was something I sort of found at the, sort of end of last year and into this year of, that sort of agency meetup that I sort of, happy hour and that was put together. So trying to do, just some beers with sort of all the, agency owners around Christchurch and just hanging out and spitball ideas and, like see what's working. And that's probably like, when I was solo, looking in on other businesses, I was just sponging like all their ideas, and then it was kind of like as soon as I wasn't in that subcontracting role and taking all those ideas, and it was like, oh shit, everything's all me now. So now trying to like lean on other people and just get that sort of support and help. So that'd definitely be something I would do and like advise. I think like day one, right? Get a team around you to just help you out, and not do the doing. It's the mental support and all that kind of stuff as well, right?
Yeah. Like, to be honest, because I've done all sorts of stuff in this space, and I think, and I'm talking early because I don't know what it's turned into yet, because the first meeting I've got is actually next Thursday. I think it's next Thursday. I've set up an actual advisory board, and I'm really excited about it. It's only 2 people at the moment, but they're 2 awesome people. And I've done the business coaching thing and a number of, and I still do some work with David, actually, which I find really beneficial. It probably is more on counselling and accountability sessions than it is actually business coaching. But I think you'd like me saying that. Right? Yeah. Like I sort of just go there and brain dump for 45 minutes. Then he gives me a whole bunch of tasks that I have to do. And then if I don't do them, he's like, why didn't you do those? And then I feel bad, so then I do them. And that's that relationship works really well for me. But the playing above the rim stuff, that's hard. You have to get real advice, and it can actually be quite dangerous getting advice from someone who learnt what they learnt from a textbook and not from doing it in real life. And that's where I've gone wrong, I think, a little bit with business coaching in the past. Is like, I had a business before they started, and that business got better or worse, but it may not have been. It's just been complicated as to what the impact's actually been. Whereas when you have an advisory board of people, say, that are like older and more experienced, and they don't really need the money, they're sort of just doing it because they like a young business that's going all right, and someone who's growth orientated, and you pay them, but I don't think it really makes a difference. I don't think that appears to have a way bigger impact. And like a lot of the advice I got, that's been the best advice I've gotten through my whole career, has been free. These people wouldn't take the money. I was like, I want to pay for this. It's worth a lot of money to me. Nah. So it's so interesting seeing how different it can be from that sort of side. I'm really excited to see what it leads to next year, is having that. I need to make more of an effort to come to your agency happy hour. I've been useless at that for the last sort of 5 or 6 months.
I'll let you.
Yeah. I've been
blame it on the kid.
But that's what I'll do. That's exactly what it's been. It's been Archie's fault. But that stuff, and having good friends who are playing the game is helpful, because it can be very isolating. And if you don't know someone, or if you don't have someone to talk to who really gets it, it's almost I don't want to sound like arrogant in a because it's not the way that I view it, but like it's almost frustrating. Like you're with someone who doesn't understand what it's like to do what you do, and you're like, oh, I've got this problem. They're like, why don't you just do this? And you're like, you think I haven't fucking thought of that? They're like, come on.
Or you just don't feel comfortable to talk about it, right? Because you're like, oh, fuck, what's the point? Like, you don't get it. Yeah.
And you like say something there, like, you're so detached from reality. And I'm like, what? I'm like, this feels pretty fucking real to me. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, just because just because my problem's not making rent this week doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Yeah. It's like, it's just stuff like that I think can be challenging. Yeah. I'm really lucky though, and like, I have a lot of friends that are fucking good to talk to about this sort of stuff, and a lot of them have gone through some pretty dark, hard patches and come out the other side of it, and so they can really help let me know how they experience that stuff.
Massively, I think just surrounding yourself with those good people, right? And whether it is like an advisory board, like at a business level, or if it's just like a bunch of really good sorts, right? That are, I think, probably having business minded, right? Like they've gone through the struggles and the ups, the downs, and can maybe suggest ways and means of like tackling situations, and I think just even, if they don't have anything to say, it's just like if you can brain dump and like just here's all the things that I've got on my chest right now, right?
Yeah.
Like, how good is that? Like when you can have that kind of open conversation with, somebody that's been there and done it, it's like, oh, cool. Thanks for listening, man.
It does. It helps. It helps. And if they say things and you're like, that is how I feel. You're like, I feel a little bit more seen and understood. And
Yeah, and I mean, like half the time, right? It's all just about like talking it through anyway, and then you come out to the like realization yourself. It's just the fact that you've actually been able to express it to somebody that understands versus like, it's I don't know, like any business problem or whatever, right? I don't take that shit home. It stays at the office.
I was going to ask that just then because like I have this and Jen's great at it. Because she's just so like hard case, like she's the ruthless one. She's like the pit bull, Like if food comes out and it's wrong, I'm like, nah, it's all good. And she's like, nah, like like and which is every guy like me needs that person just for reference. And so because of that, and like she's really switched on and is super capable. I actually talked to her about more stuff than I've thought that I would, or that I ever thought that I would, and like my partner, and think that was a part of it. But so you leave it, it's a no-go.
I mean, like, there's definitely stuff we'll talk about, right? But try not to.
Yeah.
Like, unless I'm really, like,
hurting.
Like, this sucks. Like, I got to get this on my chest, But, I don't know, like, everyday sort of stuff. It's like, you don't need to worry about that. Like, it's all good.
I have just, like, things I talk, things I don't about. Like, it's, like, a real clear, and there's stuff where it's, like, it would just stress her out more than it stresses me out. Right? I leave that stuff away. Yeah. Whereas when there's the, like this client hasn't paid this bill and it's this much, like none of that stuff makes it to her because she'd just be like, it's how much? I'm like, no.
Are we paying mortgage this week?
Yeah, so don't worry, I got it. I can handle that one. But they're like, what do I do with this? This is this person thing that I've got going on, that sort of stuff. She's really intelligent with that stuff and like actually really experienced and capable when it comes to managing people.
Yeah.
More so than me. Because, private business, I don't manage anyone. It's not like I've, and so, I think it can be really valuable in that regard too.
Yeah. I think it's just that filter, right? Like, you want to make sure that, you're not stressing them out, getting the right feedback and, taking it all on board.
Nice. And so what, looking into 2025, what's next for you guys? What do you see happening?
Yeah. I think they're like, kind of to loop it back to kind of where we were starting. Like, I think there's for us, it's just really trying to define our sort of value prop, and we're not just a web design company, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we're a digital transformation company. Yeah. Using AI more in a lot of our stuff and seeing how we can get far more value for our clients. And then, playing with some product as well. So, building a couple of tools and, a couple of sort of SaaS products and things like that. So,
cool. That's a cool space, eh?
Having some fun with that. And, a little bit of a side hustle thing at the moment. It's like when I get, a little bit of time, or it was actually not too bad. You'll get to this point, I'm sure. My boy, he was having a hard time, like, going to bed at night. And so, like, Mum would have to go in and sleep with him. Yeah. So it gave me this like perfect window of like, so he's come to get her at 10. So like, as soon as that happens, the laptop comes out. Yeah. I'm like working till like 2 a.m. in the morning. So, like there's a good window, like a couple of months there where I was just getting shit done. Yeah. Like, it was so nice.
It's so funny how you wind up just like at the whim of this little mini person and like however their schedule works, yours works around it. Like I had this sweet spot of like a month where Arch would go to sleep at like 7 and then he'd wake up at like 2 and then midnight-ish, and then he'd wake up again at 4. And so Jen would wake up with him at like midnight. We'd both go to bed pretty early because this was like, he was maybe like a month and a half old, and we're just in there like, it's like the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan when everyone's like storming the beach, like you're all shell shocked, you're just like, what's going on? And so I would just wake up at 4 with him and then just stay up. Yeah. And it was epic.
It's quite nice, right?
I know. Nothing's happening. Yeah. And so I'd go to the gym and there'd just be like one other person there or whatever. Yeah. And I'd be like leaving the gym at 5:30, workout done.
Yeah. And you feel pretty fresh too, right?
Yeah. And like the early birds are only just arriving. Yeah. Like who's this guy? You're walking out, you're like, yeah. And it's like, it's not me. It's not me. It's this like unignorable alarm clock that I've
Yeah.
got at home, because a normal alarm clock doesn't work, but a baby
That's it,
kicking
yeah.
around and stuff tends to wake you up. But then their routine just changes, and
Yeah.
you're like, could you not just keep that one? Because
Yeah,
I liked that one. That
enjoyed
worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Constantly on your toes, right?
I
It's just
know.
a change. Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to, and for like me and Jen are both so routine driven. It's been such a big curve for us trying to understand what operating without that routine is like and how we balance it. We've actually just hired a nanny. She starts on Monday, so that'll be
cool.
really interesting. 3 days a week, just because, and you'll understand this with your wife, but they don't have the same experience as the standard female who has a baby, because when you come home, even if you can make it home at a reasonable time, your head's not always there.
Yeah.
Some days it is, and like I love making bath time and being able to just
man.
like hang out with Arch or whatever.
Yeah.
But if I do that for 30 minutes, by the time I've worked all day and then I've done that 30 minutes of that, I'm like I'm, and maybe I try like kick Jen out of the house when I get home, and I'm like, go do something that fills your cup a little bit, and I'll
you
put
wanna
Arch
try and
down
give
a little
back
bit.
and-
You do your best, right? But like you're still on 10%, giving that last 10% to them to try to get. Whereas I think the standard person can sort of come home from work and they get home at 5:15 and they've been at work for 8 hours, but they watched YouTube for 3 hours of it, and they, like their life's pretty
feels
cruel,
that way,
and so
right?
they're like, boom, it's go time. They've got 95% in the tank, and then it's all on, and they can do that, and they can stay up till midnight, and they can do these things, and so I think that will be. I mean, as I go through the episodes, I'll talk probably more about it, and everyone will get to hear how it goes. But I feel like that will help her with that rhythm thing. Like just Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I have these 4 hours, I have this. It's not a huge expense when you do it that much. It's not 40 hours a week or anything like that. It'll be really interesting seeing what it's like for her being able to just like have that her time again, because they just lose it. They just lose it over.
It's tough. Definitely like watching that, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'll be curious to see how it goes.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Yeah, man.
I'll let you know if it's a bit of a hack. Cool, man. And so, we've heard what's next for you and your business. Where, if someone wants to follow your journey, if someone wants to connect with you, if someone wants to chat, I mean, maybe they're looking for a new website or a digital transformation, what should they do?
Yeah, man. Hit me up on LinkedIn. It's probably the best. Kind of active there. You can check out our website, voyage.studio. And emails on there as well. So,
Cool.
Yeah, probably two best ways.
Sweet, man. Hey, thank you so much for your time. That was real
Good,
fun.
man. Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, nice. Cool. So if you are looking for anything, make sure you get in touch with Ryan. I've seen the work that they do. I've worked on some projects that they've been involved in doing the digital transformation thing at the same time. They do an awesome job. If you've listened this far, make sure you give him a follow on LinkedIn or whatever, because you're obviously kind of interested as to what he's saying.
Thanks for the listen.
If you've listened this far, thank you very much. I appreciate your time as always. Make sure you subscribe to us on Spotify, check out the socials, do all of that sort of thing, and we will catch you on the next one. Thank you very much. Thanks again, mate.
Awesome. Cheers, mate.